So thanks for joining me. This is Kari with Colleen and Cheryl with Consistently Creative Crew, and I wanted to make a recording of the project recipe that we did tonight. I did the recording of it doing it traditionally, and I also wanted to take an opportunity and record it doing it digitally. So, like I normally start out, I take a look at the layout and I make an assessment as to whether I can do this layout and duplicate make one page, duplicate the second, or make a mirror image of it. So here it is, and it looks really similar on the right and the left pages. So I believe I can just create the left page and then mirror image it and make the right. So the couple of things that are going to happen when I do that, if I have directional paper in any of these spaces, what I may need to do is flatten them after I make that mirror image, or if I have writing on here. So I'm just going to need to be attentive to doing that. So I am going to go ahead and start my layout. The interesting thing about this cutting guide is that they took these rectangles that are 2 by 12 inches. They cut them along the diagonal to cut them in half and end up with 2 triangles. We have 8 of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to you make a triangle in Artisan, and I'm going to have it be a right triangle, and I'm just going to make the dimensions 2 by 12. So instead of actually following the recipe as Creative Memories wrote it for a traditional layout where you take the rectangle, cut it in half, I am actually just going to start out with that triangle. And since there are 8 of these, and then there's 2 photo mats, and then they've got all these border punches, which they line up behind the photo mat that they have. You can do this with ribbons, with borders, whatever you want. I'm not necessarily going to do that tonight because I did a layout that had ribbons in it. So I'm going to show you, here's my layout that I actually did this evening. So you can see I used 3 ribbons, and it worked out really well on both sides. So, and these pieces of paper, since it had writing on it, when I mirror imaged it, the writing was going to turn out backwards. So I ended up making some adjustments. So maybe what I'll do is I will walk through this and show you how to flatten and create the page. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go to a single page layout to create my left side page from the beginning. So if we go insert shape rectangle, I'm going to do a 12 by 12. And I'm going to go ahead and create this. And I'm going to use my home arrange align center on page. So this is now essentially my background. As we've used previously, I tend to leave the item on the elements panel that's labeled as shape background. I just leave that alone. So that way, if I'm going to end up changing the opacity or doing any of those things to this, I'm not actually editing my background. So I'm going to insert a content shape instead of my normal rectangles. I'm going to go from an art kit. And you can see in our built-in kits, we have a right triangle, and that's what I actually want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a right triangle. I want it to be 12 inches wide and 2 inches high, and I'm going to go ahead and just fill this. I'm going to just fill this with this red color, and I'm going to create it. So the way this layout ended up working is I want this triangle to be copied, and it's going to end up, I'm going to paste it. And the second time I do this, I want it rotated, and I want it down here on the bottom. Now, when I do that, you notice this zoom handle here is now on the bottom. So I want to flatten it so it has the normal orientation, just like this one at the top does, where the green rotation handle is at the top, and that way when I actually add paper to this, it will add correctly. So I can flatten it by going back up to the home ribbon, arrange and flatten. So now you can see that that rotation handle is up here at the top. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy this again, but I'm going to fill it with a different color. I'm going to just use maybe this light yellow. And so this one I'm going to put down here in the bottom, and I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to put this one up here in the top. And again, I've got my rotation handle in the bottom, so I'm going to flatten this so it ends up at the top. So this is pretty much the base for my layout. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that photo mat. So this is going to be a rectangle, and I'm going to do this. This one is going to be 4x6. Create this. I'm going to put this over here. Now I'm going to start inserting my photo frames. This one is 3.5 by 5.5. And I'm going to line these up with my quick access toolbar with the second and the fifth one. And then I'm going to insert another frame for photo frame. So a 6x4. I'm going to put that over here, and I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to add that here. Now, the way the layout was designed is that these two are touching, and if you don't like that, you can obviously make some adjustments so that that doesn't end up being the case. So if you end up, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a line, straight line, and I'm going to run it from top to bottom here. And I'm going to create it. And you notice if I pull that middle handle, I can kind of make it a diagonal, but I really want it straight up and down. So I've pulled it in nice and tight. And I think I'm going to end up using a stroke here. So I'm going to select a stroke from an art kit. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'm going to put these, I'll put these leaves. And I'm going to make it a little bigger. So now it is kind of like a border strip, a border punch. And so I'm just going to copy and paste this. I'm going to do 3 of them. And then I'm going to use my alignment tools to select each of them. I'm going to space them out horizontally. Then I'm going to go ahead and group them. And I'm going to line them up with these so they're kind of centered. And now I'm going to drag them behind. So now I've kind of got the basis of my page, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick some paper. These may not be the papers I would really want to use, but I'm going to go ahead and just put these in right now. Just so I have some. And maybe I will use this one. Let's see here. I know that I'm really not making these. And, I think I'm just going to fill these with a solid color for right now. I think that's good for right now. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and save this page. Maybe I'll. All right, that's a little better. So when I go ahead and mirror image this page, so as soon as it'll let me select it. And it's kind of paused. I don't know why. There we go. Let's see. So now I've got the drop down here. I can insert a mirror image of this page. And since it moves it in front, go. I can do my 2-page view. I can do bound. So now you can see this is how this all turns out. So now these aren't the papers that I necessarily use. I just tried to get something that would go with those 2 strokes. But I do want to show you when I go ahead, if I put the paper that I had in my sample that actually had writing as it went across, I'll show you how that ended up. So I am just going to go, actually, I'm going to duplicate this other page. So I pretty much had already decided what I was going to do with this one, because I knew what photos I was going to use. So I'm going to duplicate this page. I'm going to drag it down so you can see this. And sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow here. Okay, I'm going to drag this one down. So now when I mirror image this one, and then I will put them back in the correct orientation. So the right page will be on the right, the left page will be on the left, and my computer is really slowing down here. Okay, so you can see what happened here on that page. So I'm just going to remove my photo because whatever I was going to do is okay. But you see what happened with these. So what I really just need to do is I need to go in and put the correct paper back in it. And then it will all be okay. So if you've picked your papers and you go ahead and you go in and you mirror image it, it will mirror image the paper also. So what you just have to do is go back in and refill it, and it will end up being just fine. So this is hopefully a really quick way of creating this layout. So again, if you end up having any issues, be sure that things are flattened, these shapes, because we're turning and rotating. If you're mirror imaging, you might just have to refill again. So hopefully you found this Zoom to be helpful. Love to see what you create. If you do create a project, please be sure to take an image of it and share it in our Facebook group, Consistently Creative Croppers. And I don't know that I've ever shared how to do that. So if you are here and you've created it digitally and there's definitely a couple ways of doing this, but I think the easiest is to use the snipping tool. So you use the snipping tool and you grab a screen capture of the image. Then you can save this onto your computer as a JPEG and then just upload it to our Facebook page. So again, thanks so much for watching and hope you enjoyed that project recipe. If you have any comments or questions, please be sure to share them with us. Thanks so much.